Good morning, good morning, and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love. A spiritual community looking at the wisdom of the ages to embody and to empower our lives and the lives of others. And so as we begin this November, let's just take a moment and close our eyes and invoke the power and the presence that is God. Infinite Spirit, in this sacred moment, we open our hearts to the power that unites, that heals, that makes all things new. We affirm that each heart gathered here today is receptive and ready to hear the still small voice of the divine calling us higher. May this time together awaken us to the truth that we are living expressions of divine love. And we choose again and again to see through the eyes of wholeness, to allow ourselves to be renewed. And we send forth this blessing to everyone that hears this message, knowing that this moment is sacred, this space is holy, and these words are a transformational nutrition for the soul, and so it is. And so it is. And so, what a wonderful time to be alive when the time changes. We had the time change last night, and a lot of us, myself included, might be a little jaded by the time change. However, it is the moment that we get to reawaken, to be grateful for it all. And so, as we look at this month's theme in November, which is grateful for it all, grateful for it all. The time changed, the clocks that you forgot to change, the ones that I thought was changed and wasn't changed. I had to be grateful for it all. Now that's a tall order in this day, right? Because I'm gonna go in the new world. Every nanosecond there's a change. Change. But we have to understand the wholeness of life and understand that we can be grateful for it all. Why? Because there is a wholeness. There is a wholeness. And we are called to embrace the full spectrum when we step into this moment of gratefulness, because we can look at the sorrow and the sad stuff and the love and all of that as oneness. They each spawn and create each other. They create each other. And so today we want to look at this idea as we step forward of choosing love over judgment. Choosing love over judgment. Now, just think, in the last 5 minutes, you don't have to say anything, but just think to yourself, how many judgments have run through your mind? How many? 2, 5, 1,000? How many judgments have just came across the screen of your mind? Why? Because we see things not as one, not as a wholeness, but as something that's separate from ourselves. There's something that wants to put myself first for whatever reason, right? And every day we get a chance to see the world through the eyes of love or through judgment. Every day we get that chance to see eyes through love or through judgment. And what we have to remember as we need to replace the word judgment with discernment. Replace judgment with discernment, because discernment is what we sometimes call awareness, what we call being the observer, knowing that I cannot take in everything and all things, but I can take in more when I see myself outside of the face of love. And when someone does something that we don't agree with, or something that upsets us, or something that does not seem to be godly, however we define that, we judge it, as opposed to discerning what is going on. What is going on with that thing or that person that I'm judging? But more importantly, what is going on with me? Why do I choose to see in judgment as opposed to seeing in love? Because judgment separates, but love unites. Judgment looks at differences, and love looks at oneness. Because it has often been said that when we were little children, they taught us this, that God was love. And I would imagine that in all traditions, however the divine was acknowledged, there was a statement, there was a parable, there was a story that demonstrated this all-intelligence, caring, loving presence was love. And that everything that we see was an extension of that love. Everything is an extension of that love. The so-called good, the so-called bad. You think about, I love our most precious teaching symbol in the seed soil plant. Because when we put that seed in the ground and cover it up with dirt, goes into darkness, then we apply pressure. We put water and sunlight and all these things to create pressure on it. Now, if it gave up and didn't see wholeness, it wouldn't sprout. But it understands that the wholeness of things, the love of things, sometimes gives us points, disagreements, or whatever to judge. However, when we can look at it as love, just like the seed, we surrender to the moment and we sprout. We grow new branches. We bear new fruit. In the name of love, as this wholeness, this cycle of life, this thing that keeps us moving in the direction of discernment and not judgment. Because the seed could have made a judgment of all that and say, I give up. I'm not going to sprout today, tomorrow, the next day. I'm done, right? But if it looked at that in discernment as opposed to judgment, because the first thing to see, what did I do wrong? Why did this happen to me? Why didn't it happen to you? Now, most people won't admit that happened to you part, but we think it. We know we do. I wish that happened to you and not to me. But when we can see in wholeness, we know it happens to everybody in different ways. And right now, just like the time has changed, we have an opportunity to change the way we look at life. We have a time to change the way we respond to situations and circumstances and powers and principalities. And I can go on and on and on about how time is right to change, to look at things anew, to understand that to choose love over judgment is not to abandon yourself or your training or your teaching. It is an opportunity to anchor in discernment and compassion. Yes. To anchor in discernment and compassion, because there but the grace of God go I. There but the grace of God go I. So this whole thing about judgment, we don't know what's going on in a person's life. We don't know what trauma is creeping into their everyday being that they act out, or they do something that's just, there's a lot of words for that, but they just do something, right, that does not sit well with us, right? So choosing love is to align with the creative principle of the universe. Choosing judgment is to align with the illusion of separation. The illusion of separation. Ernest Holmes says this in this slide. It says, love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Everything that happens to us, everything that happens to us is a portal, is an opportunity, is a moment in time for us to create something new. Just like that little seed, it had the opportunity to create a sprout as opposed to succumbing to the judgment or the pressures or the things that seem to separate us from the divine love. That's a key. Separate us from the divine, because if love is all there is, then everything we see is love. We have to discern what it means. How do we employ it in our lives? Would you call, if a mother was teaching the son or the daughter not to run in traffic and got a little, had to grab hold to them because they were about to run, would you consider that love? Although it looks like, if you don't understand what's going on, you look at that, you might say, ooh, do I need to call the Child Protective Services on this lady or what? But we don't understand the situation all the time. Sometimes we have to take a step back, look at it in wholeness. Because we live in an ever-changing world of wholeness that evolves, that becomes, that opens itself to an environment that is always ready to create. Always ready to create. A Course in Miracles says this: every decision you make is either an expression of love or a call to love. Every decision you make is an expression for love or a call to love. Now, that expression of love, we can resonate with that pretty easy. But that call to love is that moment of judgment. That moment where we judge ourselves, others, situations, is the divine love within us saying, I need to call in a little more love here because I'm not seeing this in wholeness. It looks a little bit different. So we choose love. Divine love is the beginning of liberation. It's the beginning to free us from all kinds of, I could go, there are so many things that we need to rid ourselves of that it would take too much time to enumerate them. But when we get liberation, see, liberation is a little bit, in my mind, a little bit broader than freedom. Because freedom, you kind of wait for somebody to give you that, at least in the context of the way we understand it. But liberation means I, within myself, see something different, express something different, act in a different way. And that comes directly, I believe, from love. When I understand love. Love transforms. It neutralizes. It dissolves. Because you understand that there's this oneness. In the Tao Te Ching, it says this: when you stop judging, everything is seen clearly. When you stop judging, everything is seen clearly. Think about what our teaching says. Change your thinking, change your life. As a person thinketh, so shall they be. As they continue to think, so shall they remain. It's that remain part that's the problem. Because we read something, we hear something, but we don't embody it. We don't try to act it out. And so our thinking is still the same. And so the condition remains the same. I still get upset when I watch, certain people on TV. When I hear, just people talking about things that make absolutely positively no sense. What do? Oh, yeah, okay. But I'm still thinking the same thing. We have to learn to discern and embody so that we can stay in love. We have to embody love. We have to be the walking, talking example of what love is. To be, as they say, walk with your heart on your shirt, or on your shoulder, or on your head, wherever you want to put it. But make sure that love is proceeding everywhere you go, everything you do. Because life responds to us in kind. Ernest Holmes would always say, if you plant tomatoes, you're going to get tomatoes. If you plant potatoes, you're going to get potatoes. You're never going to get he said, Luther Burbank, who was a seed guy, he did make a pimento, right? He crossed a tomato and a potato together and made a pimento. True story. Now, I don't know what that tastes like. I'm looking to find, I might have to find that seed next year and grow it. But the way we think, the way we move in space is what we get. So if we talk love, but we're not thinking and acting from love, nothing's going to change. And then the first thing we're going to say, these teachings don't work. This wisdom is faulty. But when we can learn to love and release the judgment and move forward, we understand that judgment clouds the mind with comparisons and fear. Think about any moment that you've judged. One of those two things was somewhere close by. You either comparing yourself or something to something else, or you are afraid. But love says, look, turn away, rub your eyes and look again. You might see something different. Like the time change may still be in your eyes, and you can't see clearly because you aren't woke yet. But the thing that we must remember is that love itself has an alchemy to it. There's an alchemy of love that changes things and transforms things and moves us to a way of living that is ease and grace. Not that there won't be hardness, but I'm going to go through the hardness with ease and grace. Choosing love over judgment. Looking at the theme for this month, grateful for it all. That's how we begin to move when we can understand that, when we can live from that principle. Judgment hardens the heart. Love softens it. And in that softening, miracles unfold. Relationships heal. Communities unite. Truth is spoken. Not as a weapon, but as a healing balm for the heart, for us to express love, true love. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. My father always said, love is something you stand in, not fall in. To stand in love means I'm ready for whatever happens. I'm aware. I'm concerned. I'm joyous. I'm grateful. I'm discerning. Just like that mother who grabbed that kid's arm to stop him from running into oncoming traffic. That was a standing love. There's this story, and I'm sure a lot of you've heard it, about the monks, the river, and the woman. And when I'm sure it's a popular story. Two monks are walking by the river, and a young lady is trying to get across, but the water is kind of rough, and The monk picks her up and takes her across and comes back, and the two monks are continuing their walk. I don't know, about an hour later, the other monk says, you shouldn't have picked that woman up and carried her across the river. That broke all your vows. And the other monk looked at him and smiled and said, I dropped her off an hour ago. Are you still looking at that? Are you still judging me for that? In the moment, the thing to do was to help the young woman across, to get to where she needed to be, to deliver what she needed to deliver. Now, it looks like some sacramental thing may have been broken, but when love takes over, you can discern what needs to be done in the moment. Life is moving. It does not always fit in the boxes that we create. So when we can learn to move from that space, we can move. This next slide, I think, really hones in. This is from the teachings of the science of mind. Love is the great harmonizing principle of life. Wherever love is, there is peace and harmony. That's what that monk was distributing, displaying, actualizing. That we're looking for harmony for everybody, not just me, not just you, but for everybody, for all things. We have this saying that says, a world that works for all. For all. Now, all, believe it or not, includes all. There is nothing outside of all. And so when we can understand that and we can move from this point of how do we create an environment, a love that encompasses all things, then we're moving in a right way. We're moving in a right way. Because when we can do that, we get the opportunity to create this vortex, if you will, or this resonance. But a vortex does a little better in this example. That if you ever saw a little whirlpool or a little spinner, anything if you get too close to that spin, you're gonna get sucked in. So if we're not ready to love totally, just get close to it. It'll suck us in. That's the nature of this universe we live in. When you can get in close proximity to something, if you can resonate with something, if you can join the frequency of something that is good, which is life itself, which is love personified, you will be pulled in. And if you've ever been in a place where you were in a pool of water, and the first thing they tell you got to surrender. You got these riptides now with all these storms. They say if you get caught in the riptide, don't fight it, surrender. Go with it and come in. That's what we're being asked to do, to be grateful for all things and to love and not judge and to move in a way that is wholeness. And so how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we choose love over judgment? I'm going to give you three things. The first one is, it's kind of common sense, really. Pause before you react. Just take a deep breath. When you feel yourself getting ready to judge or act in anger or any of those things that we have been labeled as not acceptable, they are acceptable. I just got angry. But I don't want to react from that anger. I want to take a breath and pause. In the Bible, James 1:19 says this: my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Just take a breath. Just pause. Ask the question, what don't I see in this situation? Or what has been triggered in me by this situation? That's that stillness we all hear about. Step into the stillness of the divine. That's what happens when we really step in. We begin to do discernment. What's going on over there? What's going on right here? How do we bridge the difference in love and wholeness? So the first thing that we have to do to live from love and not judgment is take a pause. Step into the stillness. Sometimes that's hard. Let's call it what we see it. It's hard. But when we can practice, that's why we see these things about breath work, right? Whether it's in yoga, whether it's in meditation, or whatever it is, running, all of these techniques require breath work because it allows us to release, to take that moment to pause, to look at things in a little different way. And once we've done that, now this next one, in a world of competition and all of that stuff that we live in, capitalism and all that, we have to give up the need to be right. You got to give that up. That's a hard one there. That was harder than the last one, right? Because we all want to be right. We all fancy, if you will, our opinions, our statements, our viewpoints. But we have to give up this idea of being right, especially when it doesn't serve the wholeness, when it doesn't serve life or love itself. We have to give that up. We have to start saying, I see you, or even though I may not agree with you, but let's have a dialogue. Let's, or if we're not there, maybe we ain't at the dialogue level. We it might be a heated thing. Maybe we just sit here and breathe together and see in that stillness, in that reserving action, see if something else comes up. See if there's another way for us to travel. There's a statement attributed to Buddha that says, from Course in Miracles, that was the right one. The Course in Miracles. Would you rather be right or would you rather have peace? What you want? It's Christmas is coming. We can put it on our Christmas list and our Kwanzaa list and our Hanukkah list. What is it that you want? Because we can have it. If we change our thinking, we can change our lives. We can change our community. We can change the globe. We can change life. Well, I won't say change life itself, but what it will do, it will reveal life as it is. And then we can find that peace. We don't even need to find it at that point. It will reveal itself. Let go of the need to be right allows our authentic selves to show up, to emerge. Kind of like when the sun rises. The sun just is dark and you look and it emerges. And you look at it, it's an amazing thing when you see an immersion happen. It just poof, no words. And so the last thing is the cornerstone, which is judge not, lest ye be judged. We've all have tremendous stories we could tell. We all have fallen short, so to speak. But when we can look back, take a breath, realize that I don't need to be right. That same thing that's going on in me is going on in somebody else. So before I even try to make a discernment, there probably needs to be a conversation. There probably needs to be an understanding, so that if we're not on the same page, at least we're in the same book when we start having this conversation, trying to move in the same atmosphere. Because what's clear to me is absolutely clear to me, but it has no reference in your mind whatsoever. And when that happens, I'm judging. What do you mean you don't see this like me? Aren't you standing right here next to me? Don't you see what's going on over there? Two people standing in the rain, getting soaked. One person says, the other person says, sugar. They say something a little different, but it's the same rain. We're in the same place. That judgment factor then kicked in, and we're not taking it all in. Let's take it in. This is the one that Buddha said. Buddha said this one. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. Even if you get a chance to throw it, most of the time you're just going to drop it. Because we have to begin to look at life differently, beyond appearances, beyond what appears to be. And the way we do that is we take a pause, we take a breath. We don't need to be right, because there are going to be times when we're wrong. I don't care how much you know, I don't care how many AI robots you got. At some point, you're going to be wrong. And when you can realize that that is the case, and I'm not going to judge, I'm going to sit here and discern, and we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to get to know things at a deeper level, grateful for all there is. We move into a way that is uplifting, that is healing, and that is wholeness itself. And so it is. And so as we just close with this idea of being grateful and living in love, let us pray. Divine love, supreme intelligence that knows all things, that heals all things, that is all things. This thing that softens and loves and uplifts is what we seek to incorporate in everything that we do. Let us remember that when we choose love, not as a theory, but as an actual thing that moves within our lives, mountains will move, obstacles will disappear, and love and peace and harmony will reign throughout. And as we allow the power of the presence that goes by many names, to sit wholly and solely and boldly at the center of our being, we become transformative alchemists of love, turning ourselves, our environment, and anything we encounter into a relationship with itself, with the divine, with the love that is, that heals at the core. And so we give thanks for this idea, this moment, knowing that each and every one of us that hears this later, that's on the call now, that's here and present, are opening to a new way of examining life itself. That we are poised for a new adventure, an adventure in love, an adventure in caring, an adventure in harmony, where all things work together for the good. And so I release this prayer into a law that has been working even before we got here, that is moving, that is transforming, that is becoming everything that it should be. And so we just relax, release, and rest in that idea. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. And so as always, there's call to action. We have to embody this. And so this week, spend time with people, music, or nature that opens your heart and expands your joy. Basically, find something to be happy about, to enjoy, to create that love and feeling. And then just say, okay, now how do I expand it? One more second, one more minute, one more week. And do that regularly. And then the second thing, when you find yourself judging someone, ask, what might this person be teaching me about compassion? So as we close and we have this affirmation to seal this in the heart, the affirmation is a very simple one. I choose love in all things. That's an easy one to remember. No matter what happened this week, I choose love in all things.